Hey guys, welcome to the show. Today what we're going to be doing is we're going to be talking about knives, different types of knives, different knife techniques. This is leading up to my next show, which is going to be about sharpening knives, okay? I just want to get you familiar with the different types of knives and what you should have in your kitchen that are like really important, okay? Let's move over to the knives. Okay, everybody, these are the most common knives you're going to find in a kitchen. You will see different versions of these, variations. You're going to see bigger ones, smaller ones, a lot of different variations, but these are the most common knives you're going to see. Okay? Now, we're going to start here at the left. The first one, this is a cleaver. This is actually literally the cheapest knife I own. This is like, I got this at a dollar store. I just needed it for something. I very rarely, if ever, use a cleaver. Originally, cleavers were for people in butcher shops and whatnot. That's what they frequently hear them called, a butcher knife. It was like basically an axe. The big, heavy piece of metal, tonk, for like disassembling chunks of meat. Now, a lot of people like them because of the hefty feel for the chop, but if you have some knife skills, you don't really need that. You don't need that extra oomph behind your chops. Now, it's actually good for crushing garlic. Well, amongst other things, you can crush things with it, like, say, disassembling, like, bones from the socket, stuff like that, like, really nitty-gritty stuff, but you can do this all with a small knife if you know how. You don't really need a cleaver, but if you happen to have one, a cheap one, so be it. This one is actually the newest sort of introduction knife to the Western kitchen. It's called a Santaku, I forget. Anyway, it's a Japanese style knife. You'll recognize that it has sort of a little bit of a curl up at the top, and it's got these little grooves along the thing. It's a well-weighted knife. It's nice. This is actually my preference. This is the knife that I like the most. These little grooves are supposedly to distance the thing you're slicing so that it doesn't get stuck along the blade. And the sort of vaguely straight but little curve at the edge makes it excellent for really getting in there, chopping things fine. Now, you'll notice that it doesn't have a point. It's not like a knife for getting in there, like if you had to disassemble a chicken, or if you had to open a box from Amazon. It's not for that. This is mainly for slicing, right? If you wanted to do tomatoes, onions, something like that. Okay, now this is a bread knife. Bread knives are usually long, and you'll notice that they're serrated, and they're only angled on one side. You'll see, like, the serration is only on the one side. It's almost like it's half a knife. That's so that when you're slicing, there's one side that's the bread, which is the part that's not serrated, and this is the side that is serrated, so that the slice comes away from the bread. Now, in a low-carb diet, like a keto, I still don't know how to say that word. This doesn't really play into it that much, although there are times that this is a rather convenient knife to have. If you're doing sort of like a faux sushi or any sort of faux roll, anything like that, like there's this bacon roll I was thinking about doing a video of. It's like ham and bacon, and it's all rolled up around chicken and stuff, but you cut it like sushi. This is excellent for that. Anything that requires, slices like that, beautiful, because if it's something that's sort of delicate that will fall apart on like a roast or a steak or a piece of chicken, but you still want to like be able to slice it, the serrations are perfect for that. Okay, now this is a good old-fashioned chef's knife. Sorry. You'll notice that it rounds to a point. I got a little burr here I got to deal with. The kids are constantly putting my knives in the dishwasher, and that is not good for a knife. If you want to take the edge off a knife, that is the quickest way to do it. You put it in the dishwasher, so never do that, okay? I got a one-piece unit here. You notice that the handle and the knife are all one piece of metal. Now, that's well and good, but unfortunately, if you're doing some charcuterie, if you're doing some butchering, a knife like this actually gets fairly slippery. You want something more like this, like with the handle, or even like this, because I like this knife. It's well weighted. I like the way it fits in my hand, but it does get slippery. That's a definite risk, and I've actually had this happen a few times where it slipped up like this, and I've cut my finger here. So if I had to go back, I would get one with a better handle. I just really like this knife, and it was actually originally part of a set that I liked. Okay, now this knife, it's Victorinox. It's got this lovely, nice, big handle for grabbing, you know, shivving people in the showers and jail. I mean, no, sorry. That's a whole other video. Sorry. No, this is actually a fillet knife. It's long and thin, comes to a point, but you'll notice the difference in the points. Whereas this one sort of curves upward, and it's got like a claw, like it's just sort of like that. And this one sort of comes to a point like a sword. This one would be more for like if you wanted to get in like this, right? Whereas this one, it's for like this, like dragging across. See, what the point would be for is if you were deboning a chicken, for instance, and you had to get in, you know? Or if you're like, oh, I'm always stuck for examples. If you're just, you know, you're trying to like get into something and taking stuff away from the bone or taking stuff away from other stuff. Aphasia, it's lovely. But basically it's just for deboning and for filleting, for really getting in little fine fiddly little work. That's why the blade is so small and thin, but it is a firm blade. It's not flexible at all. Oh, sorry. It's not flexible at all. Oh, that's something I didn't talk about. See, the bread knife, good and flexible. Chef's knife, firm. Sentaku, firmest of them all. A little bit of flexibility in this, but no. This, firm. See, when you need to debone or slice, you need a firm knife. But something like a bread knife, you want something with a little bit more flexibility to it. Now this is the baby. You'll notice that every little old lady in the world has a collection of these, and they're as dull as butter knives, and they use that to cut everything. You're going to want to... This is for paring. A lot of people use them for peeling. A lot of people use them for slicing up little things. You know, no big deal. It's always good to have. I very rarely use them. I have massive hands, and this is like a doll's knife to me. Now that goes to the first thing we have to learn about knives. People are always asking, what brand of knife should I use? What type of knife should I use? What should I use? Well, the first thing you do is you find a knife and you handle it. You lift it up, you touch it. You want to know which one fits in your hand. Like, for instance, this little baby knife. I know that this is uncomfortable for me. I don't like holding it. I'm either too far up on the blade or too far back, you see? The handle is small for me, and I don't like it. This has a nice big bulky handle. That's perfect for my hand. Wraps around nicely. Beautiful. So you want to touch a knife, you want to feel a knife, you want to make sure that you know that that feels good in your hand, okay? Because you have to use this knife. This is your knife. You get the very first knife that you should get is either one of these or one of these. Chances are you should get one of these. This is the utility knife. This is the one that you want in your kitchen to start with. This is a chef's knife. It is like the foundation that you're going to build your knives from. Okay? So you basically want to find one that's big enough for you. You can get these bigger, you can get them smaller, you can get them with different handles, different grips, all kinds of stuff. You want one that fits in your hand, that you're comfortable holding, that isn't too heavy for you, that's also pretty well balanced. Because a knife the handle and the knife should be, the balancing point should be somewhere around the hilt. If I can do it. Yeah, there we go. See? I'm not good at balancing, but you see what I mean? The balancing point should be somewhere around the hilt. Which means that the knife blade and the knife handle should weigh the same amount roughly with a chef's knife. Because that way it gives it sort of that, you know, sword thing you want to go with. Now with this, you're going to be slicing, dicing, chopping, everything. This is like the workhorse of the kitchen. This is the first knife you should own. Everything else is secondary to that knife. Now I myself, I prefer a Sentaku blade. But this is after working years with a chef's knife. Now I find it's slightly heavier, and you'll find that the knife itself it's just nice. The Japanese make really nice knives. They're right up there with the Germans. I don't know why, it just is. They make really nice, I guess, I don't know. Somebody got to answer that in the comment section if you know why the Japanese make such knives. They just really intensely make nice knives. I don't know what it is. This is not a Japanese knife. It's not from Japan. It's from Jamie Oliver. He's like an English cook guy. I got it as a gift from my mother, actually. She had these coupon things for a grocery store, and they were free. Anyway, I won't get into the story. And the second knife that you should invest in, once you get this settled down, which one you prefer, whether you want a Sentaku or a chef's knife, or, you know, once you get your main knife down, you know, about 7 inches probably should be good for most kitchens. Like I say, if you have smaller hands, or if you have bigger hands, or it's just whatever you are comfortable with. That's what you should start with, okay? This is the second knife you should own. It's for more detailed work. It's for getting in the little fiddly places, deboning chickens and whatnot. This should be the second knife. Everything else is secondary to that. You can get bread knives that are the size of sabers. I have seen literally a bread knife that was like this. Oh, you can't even see, but like double this length. Like insane. Like professional bakers have cake knives and bread knives that would just boggle your mind. Like swords. They amaze me. This is probably a low priority, but if you happen to have one, it's good to have in your kitchen. This one I'm not too struck on because I find that it's just not good for my hand. But if you find it's good for your hand, although I would not recommend starting off with a paring knife. No, that's not a good thing. Okay, and I don't even see the utility in this very much. I have a use for every other knife in more of a way. Now, the second thing I want to talk about is cutting boards. Okay, now you notice that I have a plastic cutting board here. If you have a glass or a ceramic cutting board, what I would recommend you do is take it, wash it off nicely, and then fling it as far as you can out your back door. Knife, ceramic, clay, any sort of cutting board like that is death to the edge of your knife. Every time you use it, you are destroying your knife. It's not good. If you want a cutting board, you should have either a wood cutting board, a bamboo cutting board, or a plastic cutting board. Also, something that's really dangerous that a lot of people do is they'll buy a cutting board that's too small, and that'll just slip and slide all over the place, cause all kinds of havoc. Now, from there, I want to talk about different ways of sharpening them. I'm not going to get into how to sharpen it, but I'm going to talk about just sharpen. Oh, and this, I forgot about this. It's a speed peeler. It peels. I like it. Once you know how to use it, peeling like a turnip or peeling like anything really is just so fast. It's just wonderful. This poor thing I got this really cheap, and it's it's ancient. I've had it forever, and it's beat up. But it just never stops working. Beautiful. Okay, so the next thing I want to talk about is sharpening a knife. Now, a lot of kitchens will have something like this. I had to dig this out of the back of a cupboard. It was my grandmother's. What it does is it has two pieces of, I don't know what that is, flint, steel, something harder than steel anyway. And what you would do, I'm not going to do it, is you would take your blade and you would drag it through there. And what it does is it actually uses those two little things, I don't know if you can see them or not, in there, the two pieces of hard metal, and it actually scrapes the edge of the knife off, like on two directions. So it sort of has like a little edge to it, but not for very long. Now, I couldn't find my honing steel. I think I loaned it to somebody. But that's the one that looks like a long cylindrical tube with like grates on it. Not grates, like, fins, not fins. It's like rough. Like a sandpaper type of deal, but like, anyway. It'll have like cross hatches and lines and stuff cut into it so that it's like rough. And you see people in the shows like that, rubbing their knives on it. That's what's called a honing steel. That's not for sharpening. All that does is that just takes off little burrs and imperfections on the side of the blade. It preserves the cutting edge. It doesn't sharpen it. Okay? Now, the third way, the final way that I wanted to talk to you about is a sharpening stone. Now, I have one here. I like to keep mine wet because you have to actually soak these. And this is a sharpening stone. I gotta wipe it off 1 sec. This is dual grit. I forget the numbers. Basically, it's just sand or silica or whatever formed into a cake. And there you go. Now, I'm going to show you how to sharpen, but this is what you want to keep your knife sharp. You don't want to be using one of these. You don't want to be using one of those electric grinder things that you can get at the store. Oh my God, I had one of those. It was like a combination knife sharpener, can opener. And it did both jobs equally well. Horrifyingly bad. Horrifyingly bad. You would put like a chef's knife in it and it would come out a butter knife. It was nightmare. It was a nightmare. So you want to avoid those type of activities, and you want to get yourself a nice sharpening stone. Depending on how sharp you want it, you can get... See, there's one side... You see how it's two different colors? They are two different grits, like with sandpaper. It might feel pretty smooth, but this is the rough side, and this is the smooth side. So what you would do is you would take your knife, and you would get out all the burrs and everything, get the blade shaped the way you would want it on the rough side, and then you would pop it over here to the smooth side, and then you would take off anything else until the knife was absolutely surgically sharp. Okay? Now, let's just put that back away. Oop. Now, the last thing I want to tell you about the knives is that don't ever put your knives in the dishwasher. The dishwasher, all it does is bang knives around, clangs them together. No, it might be fun to watch like Game of Thrones and like see everybody smashing their swords together, but that destroys them. That takes the hone off the edge. That puts nicks and bangs. No, you keep your dishes in the dishwasher, and you hand wash your knives. Because a knife is a big investment. If you treat a knife right, you can have a knife for pretty much ever. My poor chef's knife. Oh, I gotta keep those kids away from my knives. But if you treat them right, you could have these for years and years. And you might want to invest in an expensive knife. An expensive knife, you can spend thousands of dollars on a knife. Although for most home uses, a $30 or $40 knife is perfectly adequate. But either way, you're going to want to keep it for a while. And if you put it in the dishwasher, it's going to be a paddle before too long. Actually, after one wash in the dishwasher, it's pretty much a paddle. If you want to, row your boat, it's up to you. Anyway, so that's just a brief introduction on knives, and there you have it. If you have any questions, put them in the comment section below. Don't forget to thumbs up and subscribe. And don't forget to share the video, show all your friends. And as usual, thanks for watching. You have a great time. Love y'all. Bye.